What's up everyone, it's Ohan here. I'm going by that name now, so that's the first thing to address in this video. But this is actually a video about being 1 week post-op, top surgery, and I wanted to make this one because it's just nice to come out on the other side and be able to talk about it, but also because I had a very unique situation slash circumstance, which why am I not surprised? This is my life. Something has to go wrong all the time. It's not necessarily that something went wrong, but it was more of just kind of breaking down expectations and what I thought was going to happen. I've been feeling kind of lonely because I just don't know anybody who has had a similar experience to me going through top surgery. My surgeon was Dr. Jess Ting in New York, and he's extremely talented. I felt 100% comfortable going to him, and I would not have wanted to trust my body in anybody else's hands but his. It has nothing to do with who I went to, it just has to do with limitations of one's body. Basically what happened is I went to my first consultation with him, and he looked at me and he said that I wasn't really a great candidate for double incision just because I wasn't really large enough to be able to make the incisions in the right spot and then be able to regraft the nipple, and I would be a better candidate for peri. And so I said, you're the doctor, you know better than I do, and I agree, and great, sounds good. But then I went home and I was doing a lot of research about peri, and I was looking at my chest a lot, and I was just like, I really don't think I'm small enough for peri. I mean, I'm sure it could have been done, but I mean, for the ideal results of peri, I wasn't a perfect candidate for it. And so I think I said I wanted to go back and see pictures of his results. And so I made another appointment, and then what ended up happening at that appointment is I expressed my concerns about peri, and I was like, I'm just worried about I'm worried about nipple placement, and I'm worried about wrinkling, because what they do with peri, it's also called circumareolar. It's like they make an incision around the areola, and then there's a larger circle, and then it's not, I think some surgeons call it the donut method, because you end up with this kind of donut incision, and then that's the access point to remove any extra whatever you're removing, and then you close the circumferences of those circles. So you have two circles like this, and then you bring them together and sew that up, so you don't have any scarring except for that closure, which is around the areola. But what happens is if you have too much tissue or too much skin, the second circle has to be larger in order to get rid of all of it. And so when you close, just if you think of fabric or anything, if you close a smaller circle to a bigger circle, you're gonna have to pull it more, and then the diameter of the bigger circle is gonna wrinkle inwards towards the smaller circle. And so basically his concern as well as my concern was there's just gonna be too much wrinkling. There's just too much to go in that way. I said I agree, I'm not comfortable with peri. I also just know the results of double incision to be more consistent, with less, like not more consistent in how they look, but just less likely to have a revision. And some people are okay with taking that risk and saying I might need a revision, and surgery scares me, and I just want to do it one time and be done and forever. So I said, you know what, is it possible to do a double incision with nipple grafts? And he said yes, and we agreed that that was the procedure I was going to do and he was going to do. So I went to the hospital, I had my meeting with him, he drew on my chest or whatever, and I signed a consent form that said I'm going to get double incision. And then what happened is, apparently, so I didn't know this until the chest reveal. Like, he didn't tell me, oh, by the way, I had to modify the procedure, which is that's my one complaint, not complaint, but like, that's like my one area of, I just wish he said something. Like, it's one thing to have to change something spontaneously because of a literal medical biological reason. I totally get that you can't account for everything that's going to happen until you're doing it. But I just wish that he said something when I came out of it, because then when I had my reveal on Monday and he took my bandages off and I looked down, I was like, what is this? Like, then I started panicking that, like, did I just misunderstand everything that we had talked about, or like, did I misunderstand what double incision was? Like, I was just so confused as to why the procedure ended up the way it ended up. I have no doubt in my mind that he did exactly what was right for me, and that I am really happy about. It was more of just like a shock of, you expect to see a double incision with nipple graft procedure, and then you look in the mirror and that's not what it is. And it was just really, really difficult. Like, I'm sure the reveal is difficult in general. It's just really hard to look at yourself when you're just really bruised and swollen and gnarly looking and you can't even really tell where anything is. I imagine it to be kind of strange no matter what. What's been so heavy for me to digest is that, like, as trans people, we have such little control over our bodies to begin with. It's like all this shit is happening that we don't want to happen, and there's nothing we can really do about it until we make certain decisions and start certain processes, which is fine, but those take time, and it's just like all of this shit that's like, I can't control this, I can't control this, and I'm doing the little, like anything that I can control, I'm doing, and so it just feels like, really, body, like really, I don't even have control over the procedure that I want. I was just so angry at my body, not my surgeon, my body. If you're gonna be the way you are, fine, but you can't give me a fucking break and like allow me to have the procedure I want. Like, the other scary thing too is you're handing full control over your body to some stranger's hand who obviously you've done research on and hopefully have met and feel comfortable with. So like, it was an educated decision, but at the end of the day, you're unconscious and somebody is doing something to your body and then you wake up and it's that way, and that's a really scary thing, to hand that control over to somebody else and kind of just like your body autonomy is just like given away, and it's just kind of scary. Nobody knows what their results are going to look like. You can know who your surgeon is. You can look at 900 pictures of all of the results that the surgeon has done, and yet your body is your body and it's going to look however it looks, and it's just like, for everyone it's probably surprising, but I think specifically in my case it was really really almost terrifying in the beginning. I think the first day I was having like a mini panic attack because I was just like, this is not what, like, I did not consent to this. That was the part that was so difficult, was just like, I was unaware that this was happening. That was like the kind of emotional part of me, and then the logical part of me was like, this surgeon probably did this for a very good reason. Like, it wasn't just because he was like, I know we talked about this, but I don't feel like doing it. Now I'm going to do it this way. Like, no, that's obviously not what happened. He obviously had to do this for a very specific reason, but I'm not a surgeon and I didn't know what that reason was. So I was a little confused and I was kind of freaking out, and I just needed a day to like calm down. And then I was fine, and then I was like, I'm going to call him the next day and see if I can get in touch with him this week and ask him what the F is going on. Because during my post-op appointment, I was just so surprised. I couldn't even like think of all the questions that I had. I have a very delayed processing ability. It wasn't until I came home that I kind of started thinking of all these questions and like, what is going on, and I wanted to get in touch with him. I thought it was gonna be way more difficult to reach him than it was, but he's just an amazing human being, and he answered right away, and I went over my questions with him, and he explained everything, and it was very consoling to hear from a professional why he made the choices that he had to make in that moment. It was definitely a conversation I needed to have to kind of clear my head and understand that it was for a very good reason. So I guess I'm going to talk a little bit about the procedure that I had, since it was really neither double incision with nipple grafts nor peri. I honestly don't even know what the name of it is, and I looked on the internet, couldn't really find much about it, so I hope this is educational for folks who have chests that are kind of in between those two procedures and may not have either as an ideal option. It's just really lonely to see results that you haven't seen on anybody ever, and like, you don't know how it's going to heal because there aren't pictures, because it doesn't exist. It's a very new method, and that was what was scary too, is like, well, like, hope it turns out okay. And I guess that it's in some way that's what it's like for everybody, but if it's peri or double incision with nipple grafts, you can find people who have healed years out and see what that looks like, and it's like, I haven't found people, I don't know anybody who looks like me, and that's kind of scary. So hopefully this is educational and consoling for somebody who either ends up with or chooses this kind of procedure, which I do think turned out pretty fucking awesome. What he explained is that where the surgeon makes the incision is dictated by where your areola currently is, your native areola. So where my areolas were, they were actually in the proper male location, whatever that even means, but they were basically in the right place already. In summation, I was too small for standard double incision, and I was too big for peri. So what does one do in this case? He did a procedure where I have two incisions, but my nipples and areolas did not move, so he did not regraft them to my body. My incisions are actually above the nipple, so I'm so programmed and so used to seeing an incision and then a nipple above. It's like I've seen that hundreds of times, and so it's taken me a little bit of time to adjust to seeing it the other way around, with an incision on top and then a nipple underneath. But there are benefits of the way that he did it. One is that he did not graft my nipples, so he really left them in the same place. The only thing that was done was a resizing of the areola, so I should regain nipple sensation, which is something I didn't think I would have. I wasn't too fussed about it, but it's a perk that is cool to know that I could have that, and I should have that. And then some other benefits are just the nature of where the incisions are. They're not here, which is where the standard double incision would be, so they're less prone to stretching just because they're kind of higher up on my chest. They're also a lot shorter than a standard double incision because that would extend kind of to under the arm, and it's really just across my chest here and here where the incisions are. Basically anything that you see is where it is. It doesn't extend further in any way. I just know that it's not as deep as a standard double incision, so ideally in a few years time, the incisions, my surgeon said, will fade to be almost indiscernible. So right now it looks like there are two giant gashes over my chest, which I am aware of, but that should settle down quite a bit from what I hear. I know that he did what was best for me, and I think that's a really important thing to find in a surgeon. He's been nothing but informative and helpful in my mini crises mode. It was a case where he said he didn't know until he started operating, and like, I'm not a surgeon, I don't know how often that happens, but I'm sure it happens, and there's nothing you can do except do the best thing you can in that moment, which I know he did. So without further ado, I will unveil the chest from Dr. Jess Ting, which, give me a moment, it's gonna take a bit. I actually am way more, I have much better movement than I thought I would have, considering, ow. Okay. So this is my chest, 1 week post-op. As you can see, this is my good side. This is the more swollen, larger side that needs more time for swelling to go down. As far as sensation, I have sensation down the entire middle of my chest right now. I don't really, it's pretty numb on top of the incisions, and but I feel everything below it. Besides, I don't have nipple feeling yet. But I do agree with him in that the nipples are in the right place. Had they been on top of the incisions, it would have been weird. And you can tell by this one more so, I think. Like, this one is kind of how I can't really judge this guy yet because he still has a lot of healing to do. This is probably a better view of it. I'm not going to stand up because then I have to move things, and moving things is hard right now. The initial shock was adjusting my eye to see an incision above a nipple, which I'm so not used to seeing, because I'm just so used to seeing it in this area. But again, if he were to make the incision here, the nipple would have already been above it, and that makes no sense. It just was a procedure that didn't make sense for me, and this one did, and I'm really, really happy with the results considering this is 7 days out. I think it looks awesome, and I'm just excited for the swelling to go down. And yeah, that's really it. These, right now, I think they're kind of terrifying looking to me, but I know I need to give it time and that they will fade over time, and they're also way less likely to stretch because you can see even when I move my torso, it's not doing anything to these incisions. This is what it looks like, and I am really, really, really amazed and happy, and it is a new procedure. I'm in a very vulnerable position right now where I'm showing the internet something that I was really shocked to see initially, but I just hope that this can help somebody feel less lonely and also maybe consider it for their body if it's something that could work for them. That's it. That's it. I've said what I need to say. If you have any questions or want to hit me up, I'll put my contact info down below. I think most folks have some kind of swelling asymmetry in their chests. It's not uncommon, so I'm not super worried about it. I'm actually quite happy and just excited to wear all the white t-shirts and scoop necks and deep V's and gay t-shirts. I don't know what a gay t-shirt is. I'm just excited to live life right now. Thanks for watching. I'm hoping that with this extra time off that I have from work, I'll be able to make a lot more videos on my personal channel because I have a whole list of them that I want to make and I haven't had the time, unfortunately. So hopefully I can get to some of those. So stay tuned and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.